And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Real Estate. I'm your host, Ray, and we're live on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, LinkedIn. Oh, I even hear it in the background of my computer. We're live everywhere. And we're also live on Clubhouse. This is episode 303 of This Week in Real Estate, broadcast live Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. Still right 24, but it is 25. If you're joining us live, you can make a comment and I can display your comment, just like Scap, who says, boom, super excited to be meeting and beating Matt LaMarche out in the YouTube comments of the YouTube world. They're also joining us live on Clubhouse. So if you want to speak on Clubhouse, there are moderators in there now. So just raise your hand, and if you have an actual bio and you're a real person, they'll add you to the conversation. Then you can add your voice to this podcast. That's why we do it live, is to have the real live interaction. And we do have a lot of fun topics for today. And the first one, oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to add this as a media asset, but I'm going to have to. Because the thumbnail for today was outstanding, and it was shocking when I saw this report, and I want to talk about this story right off the top. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Check out this. Boom. 71% of agents sold nothing, ? And for the audio listeners, I have a check filled out. And Canva put the number on there. The check number is 6666, which is kind of iffy, but Canva did that part. I did the rest of it. But the number, the check is filled out, and it says paid to the order of the average realtor, $0. And it's got on the signature line, not a soul. But then in the memo line, it says flexible schedule. Because apparently that's one of the number one reasons why people become real estate agents, is so that they can be their own boss and have a nice flexible schedule. But it really is hard to maintain that flexible schedule when you make $0. So we're going to talk about this. Debbie, what's up? She's joining us on Facebook. Thanks for joining us. Long time no see. Okay, so this article is on Inman. I've also seen this article posted several other places as well. But Inman's going to have a lot of stories that are coming out of their conference that they have going on right now as well. So let me share this screen here, and boom. All right, here we go. So 71% of real estate agents didn't close any deals in 2024. That sounds crazy, but it's true. And I know it's true for a couple of reasons. One, you also have to think, well, some agents are on teams. So some agents, all of their sales volume goes under a team leader. And there's some teams that are big, like hundreds of agents, that are putting all of their sales under one person. However, there's also some teams around the country, like mine, in which everyone's inputting their sales, but it still goes under the individual. And we are allowed locally to, apply for the awards together as a team. Well, in some places you can't. You have to have all your sales go into one person. So that is a factor in some of these numbers, but it could be balanced by the other side. Another factor in this is that some members of MLSs may not be producing agents. It could be vendors. Their number one thing may not be to sell a house. It could be property management. So the number is lower. The actual number is lower than 71, but it's not really clear on how much lower. Basics are the market, 30% of the agents are selling nearly 100% of the inventory, which that number is crazy when you think about it in that context. So the numbers come from Redfin. Joe Rath, Senior Director of Brokerage Operations and Head of Industry Relations at Redfin, who spoke at Inman Connect. He said 30% of agents do all the business. 71% of agents didn't close a transaction. He also echoed what I said. The number could be a little misleading because not all the agents are in the business of closing transactions. We know that, but it's still up there. You could even say, I did some research. 26% of agents are on a team. So you could say, well, we have to multiply 26% times 71%. That's like 18%. So really we subtract 18% from 71%. We're left with around 53%. So really 53%. However, there's also real estate agents who are on a team that didn't close a deal. So if half of those are right, then you shouldn't subtract 18%. You should only subtract half of that. So only subtracting 9% still gives us, 60 something percent. That's where my math breaks down. I just did a bunch in my head. I can't do it anymore. So this was done through a survey. Well, they had a survey also. I think they used the MLS information, but then they had a survey as well. There's a share of the respondents would recommend being a real estate agent hit an all-time low in 2024. I think that's funny. I mean, all the changes that we have had in our industry. I could see how some people would be like, maybe not become an agent because it's harder to get your commission now. Steven Johnson said, I sold nothing in 24, but I didn't get licensed until November. See? Well, there you go. I wonder if you're included in that study, Steven. Debbie Rice Miller said, I think your explanation regarding teams is right on. I know in our office, 24, all of the 0 producers have left the room. The cost of hanging on outweighs the benefits of hanging a license somewhere. Yeah. Now, so you and Steven just bring up a really good point. When was the study done? And is it the new numbers in January? Is it the new membership numbers, or was it using the membership numbers in 2024? Because I think a lot of people are dropping currently. In Arkansas, you will, if you go inactive, you just don't do anything with your license. You go inactive in January. But if you pay the fee in January, they can still reactivate you very quickly. So you'll see a bunch of people go inactive and say, oops, I forgot to pay the fee, and then pay the fee and then come back. But I wonder how many of those people aren't going to come back. We won't really know until February.
Ray,
go ahead.
Just a quick thing on this, because I think I commented on Jared James was the one that I initially saw this from.
Yep.
74% and then 2% and then 0.14. So my question, sorry, got a builder trying to call me here.
Oops. And priorities.
Okay. Now we're back. Okay. JC, I'll call you right back if you're listening.
Sorry, I was on an international podcast and couldn't take your call.
Yeah. We're number 1 in Taiwan, is it?
Yeah, number 16.
I can't remember.
Number 16 news show in, I think we're number 16 in Norway right now. But yeah, it's up there around the world. I
want to know about is, okay, we got the top 2. We got the top 2% covered here, and then we got the bottom 74%. But what about the other? My math is going to be bad. 24%, roughly, give or take, maybe.
Yeah.
Those other 24%, the 75% mark to the 98%. Like, what do those guys sell? Because, I see every realtor I know sharing this stat, and I know why. I can see very clearly through the trees to see that forest over there. But for the other 25%, like, I was having a conversation over the weekend with an agent that lives in a market where there's 200 agents in her MLS, and like 150 homes get sold. Well, okay, so are we looking at all these little like nuances? And I know these graphs, these data points come from national levels, but to her credit, like, she sells 10 homes a year, so she technically doesn't even fall into that 2% nationally, but she's in the top 1% of those 200 agents.
That's interesting.
Selling 10 homes, so it's kind of, I think I even posted a comment on that post because I was like, we're missing data. What happened to these other people over here? So,
well, it's really hard to get the accurate data from all the different sources and, figure it out. But
true.
Okay. So Janice, she said, Ray, your audio is cracking and a little garbly.
Yeah. See, I thought it was just me. I wasn't going to say anything.
Is that on YouTube or is it on Clubhouse?
I'm on Clubhouse, and she's right. It's also on YouTube, though. So
it is.
Sorry.
Why?
She's coming up to speak in Clubhouse, though. Maybe she'll
okay.
help us out here.
What I'm gonna do. See if I have any background operations going. Hi, Janice.
Hi, Ray.
How are you?
I think you're sounding better now.
I sound better now.
I'm good. Mm-hmm.
It does sound better. It was just Janice being on stage. That was a big difference.
That was it. I
Good
just had
job.
to come up on stage.
Good job, Jen.
That's what it was.
Good work.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Debbie says it's clear on Facebook. Well, what do you know? Facebook for once. Debbie also said, I know our association numbers are not dropping at a high rate yet. Dues are due tomorrow. Interesting. We'll see what happens. I'm kind of anxious to see. Now, I think it was last year, was it year before last, where NAR stopped publishing membership numbers? And you have to kind of look at local association numbers and tabulate it out, which is nearly impossible. But we'll see if we can get a good number, a good read on how many people are actually out there. And I just closed a whole bunch of stuff that was running in the background, so hopefully that will solidify the audio stream now. Okay, so back to this news story. Fewer agents entering the industry, which means experience levels are rising. 83% of agents have more than 3 years of experience. And agent productivity is up. 72% of respondents did 5 or more deals last year. That means that agent incomes have also gone up. 30% of agents making $100,000 or more last year. Still, 42% of agents made less than $50,000. Rath said, that's a problem. It shouldn't be so difficult to be a real estate agent. But so this is they're pivoting to what they're talking about Redfin Next. He said that's why we had to change our pay structure. It has some other stuff on there talking about what agents want out of their broker and stuff like that. I'm going to skip all that jazz. 47% of agents are actually reporting significantly more issues with home insurance than the prior year. More and more from customers that are actually changing. He says actually a lot in his quotes, actually changing the way they search for homes because they're having to think about storms, heat, droughts, flooding. I think that's because it's more in their face now due to the climate change stuff that was put in place a year and a half or 2 years ago, if you guys all remember that. Asked whether they had seen any changes in commission negotiation efforts from their clients, 54% said they'd seen slightly more or far more, while 34% said it's about the same. Let's see, what was the other stat in here I liked? Oh, they talk about the MLS versus the NAR. This was an interesting stat. Active agents' views of multiple listing service also ticked down in 2024, though not as much, and more than half the respondents still have a favorable view of MLSs. So 57%. That's down from 66% last year. 14% had a negative view. I think the difference between MLS and NAR is that agents are worried about the MLS. They're essentially not worried about the NAR. 30% of respondents thought the erosion of the MLS as a source of inventory would be a challenge in the next few years. And then he goes on to talk about how agents want a central repository of all listings available in the market. Yes, we've only been calling for that for 5 years on the show, and the show's 6 years old, a little over 6 years old now. Yeah, that's what we've been talking about for years and years and years, and it's been a prediction of mine now for 3 years straight. Debbie Rice Miller says, the market requires a lot of insight, expertise, and mining. Business does not simply drop in your lap any longer. You need to work, get educated, don't ever stop learning, and be able to pivot and find new opportunities. 100%. Let me find it. Hang on. This is what most agents are good. This is the 71% of agents, how they're going to respond to exactly what you said, Debbie.
Ain't nobody got time for
that. But in reality, you definitely have the right answer. Okay. So leaders in the industry foresee opportunity. This article is also on Inman. I mean, leaders are always going to foresee opportunity. There could be a situation in which all real estate agents, like there is no job real estate agent anymore. And the leaders and CEOs of these companies are going to say things like, well, this is a real opportunity to reshape what the public thinks and believes a real estate agent ought to be. They're always going to see an opportunity in the downturn because that's why they're in that position. That's what they're paid for. But some of their insights were good. Russ Cafano, CEO of Collabra Technology, says, I think it's a great opportunity for most of you. The bottom line is you're no longer required to cap your compensation at whatever the listing agent offers. Something consumers have always craved is the limelight on the relationship between the agent and the consumer has pushed the industry forward to do a better job of being transparent and being clear and making sure that people understand this is the value of service that I provide for the fee that I charge. So they're seeing a lot of opportunity in the openness and transparency that I feel like probably for most of these companies you guys should have had before, but now it's forced. Another source of optimism came from Ryan Serhant himself. He argued that the industry is now in a better position and that bad actors will get pushed out or put in jail. I do like the disincentivizing bad behavior through this and the shady side deals. But I also have to admit, I've still seen some shady side deals happening and some attempts at shady side deals that are, pushed into the light when I say, actually, you need to put that in the offer if your client wants it. And they're like, whoa. And then they put something in the offer that's different than what we talked about on the phone because their client now knows exactly what they're charging for their services. Meanwhile, Kinder Bonner described ongoing increase in professionalism a good thing, adding the agents now have to talk about what they're charging and why. It's a new skill set agents have to tap into as a superpower. It did talk about in the same article, NAR working on a turnaround. I feel like that should be a different article, but they're talking about leadership, I guess. Let's see. Nakia Wright. We didn't focus specifically on agent commissions. Much of her on-stage interview with interview founder Brad Inman focused on her efforts in bringing a turnaround. It's going to require a huge turnaround. I think the openness and vulnerability is a good thing for agents across the board. And I think the more and more that we pursue NAR and say, you know what, if you don't offer actual value, we're not going to be part of your organization. I think that's a good thing. All right. Any comments or thoughts on this? Many panelists said the event frame last year's industry changes for the best for agents. 54% of respondents to Redfin's polling also reported seeing slightly more or far more commission negotiation as a result of NAR's landmark lawsuit. Landmark lawsuit. I can't talk. Nothing? Well, I love the openness. It's good. Just need to lay it all out there. Let everybody see. Bart Tracy, Dallas Real Estate. What's up, man? Nikita didn't answer the questions about what the staff salaries are at NAR, including hers. So it appears she will not be transparent, at least not yet. Yeah. I wonder if that's just because maybe she didn't have it on her head, at the top of her head. I don't know. Those usually get in some report somewhere. But I think it comes a couple of years after the fact. Debbie says, I think the changes are great. It's transparent, creates a symbiotic relationship. Me too. All right, let me look up this other one. All right, here's another one. Real estate lawyers take a big stand against commission sharing. Okay, so what is this? Commission sharing is when a real estate agent pre-negotiates compensation for the buyer side before the buyer side asks for it. So this is when an agent calls and says, hey, what is the seller offering? And they say, well, the seller's offering whatever percent. These attorneys are saying, don't do that. CRMLS General Counsel Ed Zorn, Leading Real Estate Companies of the World, Chief Legal Officer Jessica Etherington warned against not to fall back on the old practices like sharing compensation. I'm tired of the regulating and lawmaking and getting sued into corners here. They're basically saying like, stay out of legal trouble. That's their point. Stay out of legal trouble. Commission sharing raises the specter of buyers being steered away from listings that offer lower than typical commissions, according to the panelist. Steering continues to be seen in the form of buyers asking their agents not to show them homes that don't offer buyer broker compensation. The right thing to do in that situation was to show buyers properties that meet their criteria regardless of offers of compensation. So this is why I think the sharing commissions is a terrible idea. We had a couple of situations now that people don't have to share commissions. This is why it's a bad idea. You're going to have some sellers that say, we're not going to do it. We can't do it. And if they say that and then accept an offer that asks for compensation, then all the agents who called that other agent and said, hey, I would like to show this property. Is your client offering any compensation? And they were told, no, there's no compensation. All the agents who did that and then told their client, well, you told me to tell you when someone says that they're not offering compensation and they're not offering compensation on this. And then the buyer says, okay, well, I guess skip that one. But then I write an offer and just put the compensation in my offer. And then it gets accepted. All of the other agents who didn't show the property because, quote, their buyer told them to pre-screen are now not doing their fiduciary duty to their client. And that leads to lawsuits. Whenever someone finds out that they become friends with someone who bought their perfect home that they didn't get to go see because that person wasn't offering compensation. And then they're talking with their buddy like, yeah, we were going to see this home too, but they weren't paying the agent's compensation. We just couldn't afford that. So it was crazy. And then they look at them and say, well, what do you mean? They paid my agent's compensation. Uh-oh, that's a lawsuit. So the point of this article on Inman, or this roundtable with the attorneys, was to stop sharing compensation, stop sharing commissions, stop steering people to homes that offer compensation, and, quote, raise the bar of professionalism. Stop sharing commissions with each other and you can't steer, Zorn said. If we make it unethical to share commissions, we're there. If we make it unethical to share commissions, we're there. It will work and we're done. How do you guys feel about this? Stephen Johnson said, apparently I'm the only one in Southwest Iowa that follows you. Everyone around here calls the listing agent to ask a percent. I mean, it happens here too. I asked an agent yesterday, she called and asked, and I was like, nah, just put it in the offer. She's like, you're not offering anything up front? I was like, no, I mean, the seller's willing to pay if it's reasonable and if the offer is good, just put it in the offer. And she says, oh. And I asked her, I said, do you call every time? She says, yeah. I said, we don't call. She said, well, how do you know you're going to get paid? I said, because I have an agreement with the buyer who says they will pay me. And they're like, well, what if the buyer didn't want to come out of pocket? I said, I'll put it in the offer. This is easy. This is so easy.
All it shows, Ray, is the people who have not been trained properly by their brokerages.
Yeah. Well, and maybe some critical thinking out there.
Well, and so I don't call. However, I call the agent and ask them other questions. I want to know, does your seller need something specific to get out of the house? What's their timeline? What do they need? And several times the agent has offered it up, but I didn't ask the question.
Yeah.
But I don't ask.
Yeah.
And my clients have to understand that they're going to owe me, that we will try and put it in the offer. To me, the problem for them becomes if there's a multiple offer situation.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, it's the same stuff. Same thing with asking for closing cost.
It is.
Right.
Yep.
It may be a multiple offer situation, but
kind of for the last 2.5 plus years, nobody's been asking for closing costs. Everything's been over.
Yeah.
Please, let me buy you a car. Just give me the house.
Yeah. I agree. All right. Any other thoughts on it? No, really? Debbie Rice Miller says, it's a slippery slope for pre-negotiation compensation. A listing agent is not precluded from having the discussion about what to expect with co-op brokers. This is the way it should happen. A listing agent is not precluded from having the discussion about what to expect. She says it's only one part of the entire purchase contract. There are so many variables to compensation. Yep. Most sellers are just considering the net. They don't care if it comes from closing costs. They don't care where that's coming from. They're just looking at the net. All right. Next up, I thought this was an interesting article from Mike Delpreet. Anyone in Clubhouse, by the way, want to talk about that? Let me go Clubhouse. I thought I saw somebody raise their hand, but now I don't see it. Let me see. Yeah. What's up, Terrence? What's up, man? You're on. Can you hear me? Maybe. Did you raise your hand by accident, Terrence? I thought I saw you raise your hand.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Now I can hear you. What's up, man? What's up?
I was pressing the wrong button. Terrence Boykin from Raleigh, North Carolina. I think there are times and situations where it's best for the seller not to offer buyer agent compensation. I think there are times where it is in the seller's best benefit to offer buyer agent compensation. Few examples, I work with divorce situations. And from my experience, I want to get as much agreed to up front, because I know during that, once that goes under transaction, one spouse that feels like they're getting the crap end of the stick is going to get an attitude. Quite possibly a perfect offer could come in, say on Thursday night. That spouse drags their feet because they don't want to talk about negotiations. They don't want to respond. Where if we had that nailed out up front, then that house could go under contract. Same thing with probate cases where there are maybe 4 direct heirs, 3 of them are married. Now we've got 7 people that have to agree. And in a perfect world, in a probate situation, there's one person that speaks for everybody and that can do the negotiations. But we all know that perfect world very rarely happens. So that's another situation where I think it's best for the seller to have that compensation agreed up front. I also had one that just closed a week ago. They were listed with another agent for 70 some days. That agent was doing a horrible job. I took the listing and got it sold. That family was stressed out. They just wanted the house sold. They didn't want to negotiate. They didn't want to go back and forth. So he came to me before I even asked and said, this is the compensation I'm paying for both sides. That works best for him because that would have been stressful for him and his wife if every weekend that was something that we had to talk about and negotiate.
Well, he could put a cap on it, but he also may have paid more than he had to.
It was worth it to him. And that's the thing I talk to a lot of agents about. Well, your seller always wants the most they can get. Sellers don't always want the most they can get for a house. Sometimes
right. That's not always it.
To pay for that convenience and that I didn't have to deal with this. And they realize that their time and enjoyment is worth a lot to them as well. So I say sometimes it's good to offer the buyer agent compensation up front. Sometimes it's not.
I think and Debbie, says the slippery slope. The slippery slope is where the buyers now steer people to or away from that based on what their fee is with their buyer. That the buyer agents are saying, well, I'm not going to show that property because he's offering compensation, but he's not offering enough. He's not offering to cover what I'm charging my buyer. So we're just going to go to a different property. So even if he's offering something, by capping it at that amount, you could be hindering buyers that are willing to pay for it and close faster. So I can make an argument for both sides, but I just don't see the good outweighing the bad of pre-negotiating that compensation. I think the bad outweighs the good. There are some cases where it may be great, but I think for the most part, not offering anything up front, I think is going to serve you better. And just having people just put in the offer. If you want it, put it in the offer. It's been really easy for us, actually. And our clients we've had 2 buyers purchase homes in which the real estate agent said that their seller was not going to pay agent compensation. And we've gone under contract with them and closed and got paid because we just stuck it in the offer. So we're ignoring, for the most part, what real estate agents are telling us about their seller, because once the offer's in front of them, all that stuff changes. But good discussion. Thanks for joining on Clubhouse, Terrence.
Glad to be here.
All right, so let's look at this. There's another battle in the portal. Why can't I say portal war? There's another battle looming in the portal war. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's terrible. I am a professional. So portal wars, leads, conversion, and delivering value. If you look at this graphic, you'll see that Zillow had 50 times the number of leads of homes.com. Now, homes.com has repeatedly said that they're not somebody that's just going to send you leads, and as evidenced by this data. Among the big U.S. portals, there's significant difference between the amount of leads generated and how those leads convert and the number of customers willing to pay for those leads. He talks about why it matters and stuff. I just kind of want to get into the data. Data over 2.5 million portal leads from my friends at Inside Real Estate, which operates one of the nation's largest CRMs, over 400,000 agents, reveals that a portion of the leads generated per portal since 2021. In this sample set, 2024 Zillow comes out as the top platform with 50 times more leads generated than homes.com, and realtor.com sits 15 times higher. Note, CoStar vigorously disagrees with the validity and conclusions from this data. Both myself and Inside Real Estate are open to dialogue to correct any factual inaccuracies. Yeah, I bet they do. Lead quality. It is difficult to measure, but perhaps the most accurate measure of lead conversion is the percentage of raw leads that turn in transaction consumer. This metric is measured within Inside Real Estate CRM platform across 300,000 portal leads. In the sample set, again, Zillow is the leader with leads that convert 2 times the rate of homes.com. Is there anyone on the call now in Clubhouse that is getting homes.com and Zillow leads and realtor.com leads that wants to share? Anyone? No? Okay, fine. I'll share my experience. I'm not getting Zillow leads anymore. I paid like a year for homes.com to feature my listings. And the only benefit I got from that, I don't really know. I know they called me and asked me questions about different neighborhoods and stuff so that I could contribute to their articles about areas. But then when I saw what they wrote, there were a couple of times where I issued corrections, and the other times I just let it ride. Like, whatever. I mean, it's not really how I said what I said, but that's fine. So I really didn't see a ton of value. I don't have people in our database from homes.com that transacted, but I also don't have people from Zillow that transacted because I don't buy the Zillow leads. So that's my experience. The resulting revenue from homes.com stands at 17 million for the quarter. That's magnitudes lower than Zillow and realtor.com. U.S. portal revenue comparison. As you can see in this chart, Zillow is the blue one, Realtor.com is the pink one, and this little black line is Homes.com. So Zillow had 320 million, Realtor.com in Q3 had 108 million, and Homes.com had 17 million. Then it goes on to talk about revenue expense and how people are using it. The counter argument is that Homes.com is not about leads. Homes appears to be more on listing and agent visibility, similar to billboard or radio or TV advertising. But even if that's the case, success is still measured in paying customers with revenue. Yeah, and in my experience, I just didn't see much from it. So we canceled our Homes.com as well. We don't buy ads from Realtor.com because the ads we were getting, or the leads we were getting there, were just trouble. It was like, hey, here's a lead of this person looking for a $1.2 million property. And we call them. They're like, no, actually, I wanted this lot to put a trailer on. I'm like, well, that's not even in the same city that you called on. Zillow leads tend to be okay, but I used to give Zillow $1 and Zillow would give me back $3. And I would try to make that exchange as much as I could, generate as many leads as I could from it. But now I give Zillow $1 and I get about 70 cents back. So it's not really worth it for us to buy the leads on Zillow. It's just not. Pending home sales fell the most. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing. Hang on. Let's get to the economy. Let's talk about what's happening with pending home sales. Oh, you missed the pre-show. You guys should join the Clubhouse room before we go live. We definitely slow jam the news in there today. Pending home sales fell the most in, is Clubhouse on? Yeah, it's still working. Pending home sales fell the most since 2022 in December as mortgage rates jumped. Pending home sales fell 4.5% month over month in December on seasonally adjusted basis. That's the largest decline since October of 2022. They dropped 2.3% year over year. Home buyer demand dipped at the end of the year because mortgage rates jumped. After inching downward at the beginning of the month, mortgage rates reversed, of course, halfway through. And I think the Fed is going to make an announcement today, but he's not expected to lower rates. He's expected just to leave them where they are. But I do think the Fed is going to announce rates today if I got my calendar dates right. We'll try to cover that live. It'll be at 1:05 today. So home purchases fell through the highest rate on record. That's one of the continuing issues that we hear is that the number of transactions that are falling through once they go under contract. We are seeing that over and over and over. I think, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong on Clubhouse and in the comments on YouTube and Facebook. One of the reasons we're seeing the fallout is the expectations from the buyer as to the condition of the property for the price they're paying. So they're paying a specific price and it's a little higher than what they think, but according to the seller, it's a little lower than what they think it should be. So they're paying, and then they have the inspection and everything's not new. So it's not as it should be. And because of that, the buyer is coming back saying, hey, if we're going to buy this house, you got to fix all these issues. And then the seller's coming back and saying, well, what do you mean? We took a lower price than we thought. If you want it for this price, you're going to have to deal with some of these issues. And that back and forth fight is ending in a lot of transactions terminating. We're not seeing as much, and we were seeing this a while back as rates were escalating quickly. You know, they were pre-approved for 5%. Now we're at 6% and they can't purchase it. Or as when they started the build, it was 4%. Now it's 5% and they can't close on the loan. We're not seeing that as much. It's usually a discrepancy between price and condition once they're under contract.
We just have to eliminate HGTV and their unrealistic shows. that tell the buyer they're going to get house beautiful every time
Yeah, that's true.
in 3 days.
In 3 days, you know what? If they don't negotiate it, we're going to remodel it for you in 3 days. Move that bus. Yeah, that's okay. We have several news articles to cover. Let me get over there. I'm on the wrong rundown. There we are. Okay. U.S. prices rose. So even though pending home sales dropped, U.S. prices rose 0.4% in December. So relatively flat, but you can see they're still continuing to go up. The month-over-month national average, Redfin's number is a little higher than the Case-Shiller, but it's still about the same. So month-over-month national average. The annual home price growth has returned to pre-pandy speeds, and that's what we thought would happen. We had this huge escalation in growth. Now, this chart is a little misleading because if you look at the chart, what's up, Greg? Greg Taylor, he said literally what happened to a friend this week, exactly as you described in Northwest Arkansas with the fallout. Thanks for joining us over there, man. Good to see you. Annual home price growth has returned to pre-pandy speeds, but so this graph is a little misleading. If you think this is price increases and then you see this drop and you're like, oh, prices decreased. No, this is when you see the news articles that say home price gains slow. They're still going up. Like this downward trend from 20% increase to a 9% increase means that home prices still gained 9% more than this 20% that they were there that day. So now it's only at 5.4% in 2024. And 3 to 6% appreciation, depending on the market, is what we saw over and over and over before the pandy. So now we're back. We're back, baby. Okay. Home prices are rising in every major metro for the first time since 2022. So same news, same data, different spin on it. Home prices are rising fastest in the Midwest and slowest in Florida. So one of the reasons why I'm wondering if it's because Florida is allowing insurance to do its thing there, and insurance is going up, and it's causing some people not to increase their prices because their cost base is going up. Debbie Rice Miller said, here's some boomer speak. In the 25 years that I've been doing this, this is not that bad. Think 2008 through 2011, you couldn't even sell a home that was 50% under market value. I remember those days. Debbie says, currently, you can still sell a home that is priced right, that checks most of the consumer's requirements. People are still buying if it's necessary. Yeah. I agree with you. The cuteness factor is definitely in play. If you have a cute house, the likelihood that you're going to sell that cute house is high if you price it right. If you have an ugly house, you also got to price it right. So you guys can see the rest of the data to see what your market is doing in the year over year change in median price and the median sell prices over there on the chart. And what's up? Man, I keep losing my rundown. Sorry about that. I swear I'm a pro. High house payments are slowing home sales, but buyers could get relief soon. What's up, Glenda Baker? She said buyers are condition intolerant like never before. Intolerant? Yeah. I 100% agree with you. They will not put up with a house that is not in good shape, especially with the prices that they're paying. Because like we saw that graph that said 20% and then it's only 9% increase, but it's still on 9% on top of that 20%. So home prices are high. Housing payments are high, more than ever before. But buyers could get relief soon. Greg Taylor says on Instagram, big takeaway. Are you cute or ugly? Noted. Yeah, it's important. All right, so where's the relief coming from? The median U.S. monthly housing payment is $2,686. That's the highest level in nearly 7 months, 4 weeks ending July 19th. Housing costs are high because of rising mortgage rates and home prices. Weekly average mortgage rate, 7.04%. That's the highest level since May, and it's up 5% year over year. High housing costs are one factor, keeping many would-be home buyers on the sidelines. Talked about pending home sales again. The average home is selling in 52 days. That's the longest span in 2 years. Yeah, have you guys done your days on market research lately to find the average and median home prices? It's crazy to see the change. Let's see. There are signs that home buyers could get relief soon. The daily average mortgage rate started coming down last week after a softer than expected CPI report. And Redfin economists expect rates to decline more if President Trump continues to signal he'll be less aggressive on tariffs than expected. Let's see. As sell price increases may be losing momentum. The 5% year-over-year increase is the smallest since October. So the relief is coming from the rate changes without the actual rate drops from the Fed. The market doing its thing. What's up, Antonio? He said, what's up, brother? Long time no see on Instagram. What's up, man? Let's see. The article goes on to talk some about the Los Angeles wildfires and stuff, but I've got another article on that that we'll discuss here shortly. The last show was 2 weeks ago because last week we were at Elite Retreat. So the last show was 2 weeks ago, and we talked a lot about the wildfires, where they were happening and why, what would happen with the market. And I believe I mentioned Redfin's weird report that it was like a LA specific report talking about what's happening in the real estate market as it was on fire. It was just kind of an odd report. Well, they did update that. Like I saw several updates to that. They were talking about what's going on and what's going on with the prices of rents and things like that. So they are making it a little more interesting now, but it's still kind of a weird article to have around. Okay. I would love to hear a debate. Oh, where's Matt Lamar? She's gone. Okay. Well, I still got Scat. What's up, Terry, Janice, and Terrence? Is home buying still a part of the American dream? Is buying and owning a home the American dream? Hit up the comments. Tell me. Do most Americans believe that buying a home is still the American dream? There's a new survey out from Realtor.com. Don't go look it up. Just drop in the comments what you think. If you're watching this on the replay, drop it down in the comments. Is buying and owning a home the American dream? I was surprised when I saw this stat. Am I surprised because it was so high, or am I surprised because it was so low? I don't know. I haven't seen enough guesses in the chat. I see how many people are on YouTube, and none of you are commenting. I need you to comment. Or I guess some of you may be on Facebook and LinkedIn and such, but I can still see those comments when they come through. Greg says, great question. Well, what do you think? It is a great question. Anyone in Clubhouse want to chime in before I give the answer?
I said no.
You said no. All right. Oh, I see. You guys are in the chat over there.
I think that for several years, people were being told that they deserved it because it was part of the American dream. So it became something everyone thought they deserved and needed. And I'm not of that opinion. It'd be great if everyone could afford a house and afford the one they want and make enough money to purchase the one they want, but that's not reality. And I feel like maybe they were set up for something that was not necessarily possible for everyone. Certainly for some, and probably more than thought that they could do, but I don't think it's for everyone. And I've got clients right now that are getting ready to let me sell their house, and they're moving into an apartment because they don't ever want to have to do anything again in their lives.
Yeah.
They don't want to mow. They don't want to fix things. They don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
So it's not for everybody.
Okay. Maverick Home Group said no. I don't think it's the dream anymore. Debbie Rice Miller said yes, homeownership is part of the American dream because most realize it's a pathway to generational wealth. Debbie, that's spoken like a true boomer. I'm only saying that because you said it earlier. You said it earlier, so I'm repeating it. Stephen Johnson said, I think priorities have changed, so no. Okay. Well, let's take a look at this new survey. I think I got it, but wait, hang on. Greg, he said he is working on an answer. He's got it here. I think with the rise of college tuition, the younger generation is evaluating investments in the future differently. I 100% concur. Interesting study would be, do they think a college education is more valuable or home ownership? Wouldn't that be interesting? That would be an interesting question. Which is more valuable, owning a home or college tuition or your college education? Huh. All right, so let's take a look. This, let me share. I'm sharing. Gotta go back. All right, so this is on the Realtor.com media room. It's just a study. It is from, I don't know, I guess it's from Realtor.com. I thought maybe it was a different study. 3 out of 4 Americans view homeownership as part of the American dream. Isn't that interesting? So, which found nearly 2 out of 3 Americans, 64%, identify homeownership as one of their life goals, while 50% believe homeownership is necessary to achieving long-term wealth. Huh. Home and land ownership has been part of the American dream for generations. While the current conditions around affordability and availability of homes make homeownership more challenging, many Americans see that the idea of having a home that belongs to them is a key cornerstone of achieving both the American dream and creating long-term wealth for themselves and their families. And that's just not like someone saying that. That is based on the research. A majority, 75% of Americans believe that homeownership is part of the American dream, but the sentiment differs across generations. Baby boomers feel the strongest at 84%. There you are, boomer. Debbie Rice Miller says, see, boomers know a little bit. Let's see. While the rest of the generations agree, but to a lesser degree. So especially as they get younger, 74% of Gen X, 69% of millennials, 67% of Gen Z feel that owning a home is part of the American dream. That being said, the desire to own a home is still high. So Americans, and particularly millennials, is 69%, noise, and Gen Z at 70% identify it as a life goal. More than 62% of Gen X and 59% of baby boomers, potentially because they aren't as likely to own a home. Interesting. Americans are confident that homeownership is achievable. This is also taken from the survey. 59% believe that homeownership is achievable for them. Baby boomers are most confident. Younger generations agree that homeownership is an integral part to build long-term wealth. And then they talk about the methodology. So they surveyed a bunch of people. I thought that was interesting research. I, to be honest, I thought there was no way that most people, I could see the baby boomers saying it, but other than that, I figured that most people would say, no, homeownership is not a thing anymore. And they would just be changing their priorities, what Stephen Johnson said in the comments. But it turns out most people still are for homeownership and believe that it is important. All right, so this happened this week. Mortgage demand dropped further. So even though people still think it's important and part of the American dream, mortgage demand drops even as interest rates settle. So mortgage rates didn't move last week, but the demand for new home loans continued to weaken. The average contract interest rate for $766,550 or less remained unchanged. Applications to refi dropped 7%. Applications to purchase fell 0.4%. So relatively flat on applications to purchase. This quote is from Joel Kahn. He's a vice president and deputy chief economist at the Mortgage Bankers Association. Kahn, there you are, Matt. Purchase activity decreased slightly, but applications for FHA purchase loans were a bright spot, increasing by 2%. So we are seeing activity on the bottom 1/3 of the market, which that's what we're seeing locally here too. The big stuff sitting and the little stuff is flying off the shelves. So can Trump fix it? Drop in the comments if you think Trump can fix it. Can Trump fix housing? Matt Lamar says, yeah. Big time. I mean, some evidence of his fixes just came in the first day or two that he was president. You know, he signed a couple of bills and then he fixed global warming by making it snow in Florida. So he's efficient. Maverick Home Group says, nope. Why can't Trump fix it, Maverick?
Kevin. That's Kevin. That's Kevin Amoroso down below.
Oh, it is? What's up, Kevin?
Yeah, Mr. CEO of Maverick Home Group in Florida. How dare you?
I don't out them. I always just say what their username says in case they don't want to be outed. But
no, I know, but I just outed him because Kevin, you're a loser. Okay, you're such a loser. Florida real estate's a loser.
You got to work on that Trump, but it's coming. It's coming. Debbie Rice Miller said,
Biden's so much better.
That's true. Debbie Rice Miller said, there's a lot of apathy because cost associated with buying a home. It's not the home cost. Yeah, I agree. What were you going to say, Terry?
I was going to say, I think he might get rid of some of the excessive regulations and possibly allow for some new building materials that might be more efficient in today, for today, something that's new and inventive and proven sustainable that they haven't approved. I mean, some of these building codes haven't been changed in many years, and others make zero sense whatsoever. So I think that might be something that gets looked into under his term.
That's right. We're going to remove all the regulations. We're going to do all the buildings.
You know what's funny, Matt, is I know you can't help but to be moving your hand like he's moving it as you talk, with the,
how did you know?
I just know it because that's the only way you can get, get the voice right.
It's true.
All right. Maverick Home Group says, LOL, I'm done. Ray, could you repeat what you just said about the mortgage application rate? Yeah. So that you mean the quote from Joel Kahn? Hang on. Let me go back. I can do this. First off, I have way too many screens up. All right. Purchase activity decreased slightly, but applications for FHA purchase loans were the bright spot, increasing 2%. So what I said is that we have properties at the bottom 1/3 of the market flying off the shelves and properties at the top 1/3 of the market are just sitting. Is that what you were talking about? That was a quote from Joel Kahn, the Mortgage Bankers Association's deputy chief economist. All right, so let's talk about Trump. Some say he can, some say he can't, but I think everyone says the path is the same. If he wants to do this, there's a way he's got to do it, and this appears to be the path. Okay, within his first few days in office, he issued emergency order directing the heads of all executive departments of agencies to, quote, deliver emergency price relief, which he emphasized would include lowering the cost of housing and expanding supply. That's that second part. Expanding supply is critical. He says it's critical to restore purchasing power to the American family and improve our quality of life. That's what the executive action by Trump said on Monday. Trump administration cited regulatory requirements as a main driver why so many Americans are unable to purchase a home. In his first term, Trump reduced regulatory costs by almost $11,000 per household. Wow. I didn't realize that was his first term. Trump's plan to cut regulatory red tape focuses on construction costs, but most housing regulations like zoning laws and permitting are controlled by local governments. The federal government has limited authority here, so meaningful change will likely be required, incentivizing local governments or taking unprecedented federal action such as overriding local zoning laws. That's what Daryl Fairweather told Fox Business. I don't see them overriding local laws. And they may put out something to try to do it, but they're going to get so much pushback from that. However, it may put the onus on the local officials to do something about it. So I don't think they can technically do that, but it may pressure them into doing something, which is a tactic that Trump uses all the time in negotiation. And I kind of love it. He puts pressure, so much pressure on people to perform that they have to do something, and it may not go as far as he wants. It may not go as far as the people want, but at least they do something. So I think that's kind of his tactic here. Realtor.com chief economist Danielle Hell told Fox Business that the U.S. is facing a deficit between 2.5 million and 7.2 million homes. That's the highest number I've heard, 7.2 million. I've always heard it was around 4 million, which I guess is in the middle of those two. She said regulatory requirements can add significant cost to building, have been a barrier to ramping up supply, and are a good place to start. For one, about $90,000 of the cost of new construction is due to regulation and regulatory compliance. Wow. That's wild. With new construction just over 400,000, that's a pretty hefty percentage. Yeah, it is almost 1/4. That's nuts. Noah Roberts, founder of real estate firm Pending, which specializes in off-market transaction, also believes the key to making houses affordable is to increase supply. Yeah, we all need the supply button to increase. That's the trick. That's how you lower the prices, is you put more properties out there. And I think there's a couple of ways to do that. One would be, lowering the rates gets people off the fence. If they have a nice 3% loan, but they're in a really cramped house, lowering that rate is going to help them to go ahead and move out of the house and feel good about purchasing the new one or buying the new one. So that's going to add supply. And the other part of this, cutting the red tape, could get a lot of this stuff done faster. Okay. Almost time for some breaking news here. Oh, there it is. On cue. What's really cool is I put the breaking news in the rundown. And then right when I got to that place in the rundown, the red bar goes across my screen. Breaking news from This Week in Real Estate. That is right. The Fed holds steady, takes a less confident view on inflation. The Federal Reserve held its key interest rate in check Wednesday, revising a recent trend of easing the policy as it examines what's likely to be a bumpy political and economic landscape ahead. And its widely anticipated move. Yeah, no one was saying he was going to drop rates this time. Everyone was saying he was going to hold it. They left it unchanged. Its overnight borrowing rate. The decision follows 3 straight cuts in September. I think everyone saw this. Unemployment rate has stabilized at a low level in recent months, and labor market conditions remain solid. Inflation remains somewhat elevated. Yeah. Unfortunately, something's got to give, right? So we've talked about this ad nauseum on the show. The Fed has a 2-part challenge. One is to lower inflation, lower the prices on stuff, and the other is to keep everybody employed. The problem is when everyone is employed, everyone buys stuff. And the more people buy stuff, the less supply there is of stuff, and the higher demand stuff is in. And the more demand there is for stuff, well, then you have a situation in which the price has to rise because the producer can't keep up with the demand. And that is inflation. So if people are not employed and they don't have the money to buy stuff, then prices on stuff comes down. The other way you cure this is supply side, but it's difficult. And I think that's what Trump is trying to do, and we'll see if he can succeed in that. But by increasing the supply, increasing the production, increasing the domestic production, that potentially could help. So we'll see. I'm choppy on the video on YouTube. I'm hopeful that the audio is not choppy, but I don't know. We'll see. Danielle is in Clubhouse. Is that Danielle Hale? If you are Danielle Hale, let me look at you. Just maybe by the same name. Oh, so close. Danielle Huber. So close. But you're new, so hey. And what's up, Kevin? I also see you down there. Thanks for listening in more than one place. Getting that view count up. Let's see. Yeah, CH is a little choppy too. I don't know what's going on. I've closed everything. Yeah. I'm recording it locally, so. Greg Taylor says I'd look good and sound great on Instagram. Thank you, Greg. If I could play royalty-free music right now, I could. I would. All right. Last article of the day. We talked about the wildfires a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about the speculators and what's happening in the area. And if you missed the conference, meeting/conference thing that Trump had with the California mayor, you've got to go back and watch it. It's pretty incredible. And what's incredible about it, so Trump goes and visits the area. There are people standing around looking at their properties, literally standing in front of their properties. Some of them can't get to the properties yet because they don't have the pass. But the ones that could are standing in front of their properties, and they're not allowed to do anything on that property yet. They can't go get a dumpster and just start throwing stuff away. They can't start clearing it themselves. California said, hey, we're going to we're going to help you guys clear this by hiring, contractors and stuff to come in and clear your lot for you, which sounds great. But the people standing in front of their lot were told it would be 18 months before they would be able to go to their lot and start helping to clear stuff. So Trump has this meeting and then just publicly tells them, like, that's way too long. You guys can't do that. This guy would be there tonight clearing it if you would let him just go clear it. You need to cut the red tape, get rid of this red tape. And both Newsom and Bass said that they would be cutting red tape of anyone that wants to rebuild if you rebuild the same exact thing you had with no increase. I think it allowed for a 10% change in home size or increase or just structure, but you have to build pretty much exactly what you had there. And if you make any changes outside of that, now you have to go through all the red tape that normal Californians have to go through if they were to build or make something. So Trump's like, nah, get rid of all this red tape. Let people clear their lots right now. And Bass was like, oh no, they can go. And one of the people in the audience was like, when? Now? And she was like, no, it'll be at least a week. Trump was like, oh my gosh, let them go now. Anyway, it was an interesting exchange. But this story I also thought was interesting. After the wildfires, what a long rebuilding process will look like for Los Angeles homeowners. It's got a phenomenal picture just so you can see the damage. It's pretty crazy. A few weeks ago, the home of Dr. Raymond Raskin, Los Angeles wildfire-stricken Pacific Palisades neighborhood burned to the ground. Let's see, where is it talking about? Rebuilding the homes themselves actually is the easy part, said Tom Gravel, division president of Orange County, Los Angeles for the Nevada-based Tri-Point Homes. The much harder part is what's going to take to bring those lots back to a buildable form, alluding to the colossal job of removing tens of thousands of decimated areas strewn with tons of hazardous debris. And that has to be done comprehensive and programmatic approach. This is the thing where there was a bunch of permits they want to get. Now, the argument for the permits is like, hey, you got to have permits to go back to your property. So one, we know you're not somebody trying to steal stuff. Two, it could be dangerous, right? There could be, someone said lead and asbestos and other things. So, you have to know that the argument on the other side is like, well, it's their stuff. They should be able to do what they want, take the risk, have individual responsibility and accountability for their own actions. If they want to get in there and start cleaning, let them go. Let's see, Jan, what's up, man? He said the city is hiring their preferred company and paying them way too much. LA needs to be saved from the incompetent mayor and governor. That's Californian. I didn't say that. Yeah, that's part of what I think Trump's press secretary or not press secretary, it was like a release that they had talking about how they don't need to be waiting on the contractor buddies of the mayor and governor to clear it. That they just need to be able to hire whoever they want to hire and get it done. In order to accelerate the cleanup and rebuilding process that's already involved a slew of regulatory red tape, California Governor Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass have both issued executive orders. Newsom's action suspends permitting and review requirements. And then Bass's order likewise will expedite permitting, also streamline debris removal. But my understanding is those permit requirements will not be streamlined unless you're building the exact same thing that you had. So if you want to update or upgrade your house, take some of the insurance money, if you had insurance, add it to your own money and build something slightly different, you're going to be locked in the red tape. Yeah, look at that photo.
That's how it was when our town had a tornado. It was the same thing. You had to build within the same footprint.
Yeah.
You could possibly go higher, but you couldn't go bigger.
Right.
And you had to stay in the same footprint.
Yeah. Let's see. Searching for fire-resistant lumber, siding, insulation, windows, roofing, and other materials he'll need to protect his new home from future blazes is high on Raskin's to-do list. That's the guy that they talked to, the anecdote they brought into it. His house was built in 1998. Home builders' role in housing supply. Large production companies such as TriPoint, KB Home, Lennar, and Toll Brothers specialize in building multi-home developments and multifamily complexes, so they will not be heavily involved in the construction of individuals' houses in LA. Instead, they might entice displaced residents who opt out of the city's high-priced, supply-constrained housing market in favor of more affordable planned communities nearby. This is an interesting article. It's over on CNBC. I'm not going to sit on it too much. I kind of think we covered it. We'll keep an eye on what's happening there. Basically, the big question is, are they going to be able to cut the red tape to streamline? Debbie Rice Miller said, I live in an area that lists 1,100 homes. That lost 1,100 homes to wildfire. 4 years later, it's still not rebuilt. The area is remote and basically forgotten, still not declared on the FEMA disaster area 4 years later. All of that permit streamlining sounds great, but then the fire department and building department gets involved and throw kinks in the wheel. Yeah. And this is what I think I brought it up 2 weeks ago on the show. But there was an interesting anecdote by Adam Carolla, which I thought he was really liberal, but he said that basically all this red tape is going to force a red state to become a blue state, which I don't think it's going to be that exaggerated, but that they've got to get rid of the red tape in order to rebuild quickly and efficiently to make life normal for a lot of people who are completely displaced in the situation. So I hope they do. I've reached out to a lot of my friends in LA and agents that I know around the country to kind of see what's happening and what's going on. And right now, there are lines to get passes so that people can get into their neighborhood. That's what I heard yesterday. So they're all being forced to go to a particular place. Once they go to this particular place and get the pass, then they're allowed through the barriers that police and the National Guard have set up. So, and they were instructed by people higher up than them at the state and local level not to let people through. So, and again, I understand you don't want to let everyone through it to disaster. Just have a bunch of people looking at stuff and, messing with stuff. And maybe, they had a huge looting issue. So you don't want people just to be going to those places and messing around. But at the same time, if I own a home and it's been destroyed, I want to start that cleanup immediately. Which in Arkansas we did. We had the tornado that came through March 31st, and literally the next day I went with my video and got, droves and droves and droves of people and captured them starting to clean up. And there was no permit needed for asbestos or lead. They just got it done. And for the most part, that area is now cleaned up. It's 2 years. There's still a couple of houses that are disheveled, but that was the choice of that specific homeowner. So for the most part, it's fairly rebuilt. All right, guys.
I want to make.
Oh wait, go ahead.
Make sure I get paid this week. Sorry, I just was going to say I want to make sure I get paid this week. Andy, I did try to bring you up several times.
Was Andy? Did he not come up? Oh, he's got his hand up, doesn't he?
No. Yeah, I tried, Andy.
I can't even click on him. I'm clicking on him and nothing's happening. So I don't know what's going on, Andy.
Yeah, I don't either. But it's also hard to type as Trump because you're using your hands while you're trying to type, and that's
every time. Yeah, that's true.
Every single time. Now we're back at the cut. I can't.
Don't be rude.
You can't make me stop. I'm gonna come.
That's one of my favorite songs now, actually.
Thank you very much. That's really nice. Thank you.
No, I still. So funny.
Oh God! No.
What?
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
All right. That's enough for today, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. Please tune in next week. And in between now and then, feel free to send me any article suggestions or anything you find. I am Ray Zorback on Instagram. That's RayZorback. And reach out if you listen to this on the audio version, especially on the podcast later. I love to hear from you, and I love to hear people that are like, hey, I listen when I do this, or I listen. So please reach out and tell me that you listen, because it's always fun to have that encouragement. But thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for the input. Shout out to the Clubhouse, YouTube, and Facebook commenters today. You guys came through, and Instagram. Had a ton of activity on Instagram today, so appreciate you guys. And I'll see you later. Later, brother.